Hello Dawn, it's good to have you with us today. For our viewers, we're going to be talking about why men and women react differently to emotions. If we understand how and why men and women react differently, then I'm sure that we'll have better outcomes. I've noticed that some, and in particular men, can suddenly become extremely angry for no apparent reason. I'm sure that you've had lots of experience with that, Dawn, and in dealing with this. So can you enlighten us and open up the subject for us to better understand it as to how and why men and women react differently?
Yep, sure, John. So let's understand. This will be a quite interesting piece of information here. We've got core emotions, and I always see these core emotions as happy, sad, fear, anger.
Okay.
And because from a very, very young age, from birth in fact, we actually respond differently as parents and as adults, and so we respond differently to boys and girls.
Oh.
From the time we have the pink or the blue booties,
Mm-hmm.
we actually are unconsciously in many cases reacting to the infants quite differently.
Okay.
And so I look at 4 core emotions: happy, sad, fear, anger. From the time we're born, we have this unconscious different behaviour with the child. We're treating them differently, whether they are male or female. And from then on, we're basically looking at a continuous minute-by-minute reaction from then on to whether this person is a male or a female. Okay. And that then sets a pattern that is really quite self-defeating for most of us.
Okay.
So they are the 4 core emotions, and there are, the books will have written hundreds of emotional states. It can be, this is the sort of midline of the emotions. Like happy, for instance, the most extreme form of happy is bliss, and much happier. But there's even sort of, I'm okay, I'm chugging along, less than happy. I'm not unhappy, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm bouncing along, not happy. So there are different intensities of each of these 4. And emotions can be either a different intensity of each one of these or a combination. For instance, the most extreme form of sadness is despair. Mm-hmm. The most extreme form of fear is terror. The most extreme form of anger is rage. Mm-hmm. So a little bit back, a little bit not quite so angry might be, I'm irritable today. Fear, I might be a bit anxious. Mm-hmm. With sadness, I'm a bit, just feeling a bit under par today, and so on. Or, for instance, if we look at the emotion of, say, disappointment. I really wanted us to go on the family picnic and now we're not going. I feel really disappointed. So that could be a combination, is likely to be a combination of I'm sad, but I might be a bit angry about it as well. Mm-hmm. Right? Jealousy, for instance, is an emotion that is a combination of fear, this is going to, things are going really badly wrong here, and anger, and so on. So when we're looking at emotions, it's a bit more complex than just, I feel such and such. It could be something much deeper that's going on underneath. So from birth, we get the difference between men and women expressing all of these emotions. So here we go then. We've got women and men then grow up to express each of these emotions, each of them will express emotions differently because of being male or female. We give permission in our society to behave very specifically according to our gender. So
Okay.
and I'm giving you also a general principle here as well, because there are exceptions to this. So the general principle is that for women, they are given as babies and thereafter the very clear message that it's okay for them to express fear and sadness and cry.
Okay.
That's being feminine. That's quite acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, in our culture, that is an acceptable female behaviour.
Right.
It is generally not acceptable, socially acceptable behaviour for women to express anger.
Oh, for sure.
Where's that smile?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, don't be a nasty, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
We get that message. Women get that message from birth.
Mm-hmm.
So children, by the time they're about 2,
Mm-hmm.
they've already realised very, very clearly these particular sex roles, the difference in the sex roles. So girls learn very quickly and continuously that if they feel angry, they must substitute an acceptable emotion, and they will act frightened or sad, burst into tears, become very quiet, very depressed, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, as you're actually feeling angry but expressing it or repressing it
Mm-hmm.
into fear or sadness, the more that happens, the more extreme the depression, the despair, the anxiety, and so on gets in women. Right? That is going to keep escalating into over the years into a passive, repressed feeling, a behaviour in women. And so this will escalate continuously into passive and depressed, apparently depressed behaviour by women.
Okay. So,
Now, the opposite is true for men. They are socially expected, that's being the man, it's being tough, to express anger. Now, that is a socially acceptable thing. If a man is expressing fear or sadness, let alone crying, although I think we're changing a bit on this now,
mm-hmm.
But they're still very, very common in this society, that it's not okay, generally speaking, for men, boys, and therefore men to express fear and sadness.
Yep.
That's being a wuss or a mummy's boy,
Yep.
or pathetic.
Yep.
Right? Or you're really not coping at all. You're obviously psycho if you're a man and you're crying.
Yep.
No, they're experiencing those emotions. Both men and women are experiencing fear with the 4: happy, sad, frightened, and angry. But these so-called negative emotions, because anything other than happy is considered to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so to express fear and sadness for a very early age, they learn very early that it's not okay for them to be finding, oh, come on, you didn't do it, come on up, you get, what are you, a man or a mouse?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And boys then learn at a very early age that when they feel frightened or sad, and they do, as much as girls do, they experience it, they learn to substitute at a very young age to act angry. Now, so what that means is that the more they feel frightened and sad over the years, the more there is in this tank, of fear and sadness, this great vat full of emotions, the more fear and sadness there is there, the more anger there's going to be expressed. So, back to the women. If they are feeling angry and they have to repress that, we are given emotions by God, basically, to express our needs, to communicate needs. If we don't communicate effectively, we are not going to get our needs met. So, the more a woman feels angry, there's a particular set of behaviours that we need to have in response to that, which we can talk about later. But if she's expressing fear or sadness, that's just simply going to build up pressure and pressure and pressure more with the anger. So you just touch that anger. later in life, at any time, like as they're getting older, and it'll come out bang as an explosion of depression and despair.
Okay.
It's a tank full of anger built up. Same with men. They're building up a tank full of a vat full of fear and sadness.
Right.
And when that's just touched, it's going to explode, immediately be transferred into anger.
So
and
it's
they will act
exactly
angry.
the opposite. Exactly the opposite
Yeah,
for men and women.
that's right.
Wow.
That's right. It's exactly the opposite. Now, you can see, if you've got, therefore, you put the two together, and there is a thermonuclear device going on here. So, the little boy, for instance, who's frightened of the boogeyman that might be in the under the bed or something, and somebody says, "Oh, come on, what are you, a man of mass? I'm turning this light off, and you go to sleep." And then he's got to do something with his fear, and what he learns to do is act tough. Mm-hmm. So the next morning, for no apparent reason, he gets up and kicks the cat.
Yep.
And people say, "Oh, he's an angry little boy, isn't he?"
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this, and then men are considered to be anger in men. Incidentally, is often considered to be assertiveness, whereas anger in women is believed, usually analysed as aggression.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there's a different social value for both men and women right the way through this. So, okay. So at this point, the more fear and sadness this person, male boy, is growing up, then he's into a man, the more anger he's going to express.
Right.
So, so these two are in a relationship, a marriage, say, and he gets the word from the boss. It's going to be triggered, right? Oh, this report's rubbish. You're going to have to get your act together, or you're out. You're not good enough.
Right.
It's a message. That message gives that it really either frightens or in despair.
Mm-hmm.
The hurt involved in this is huge, and it hits every other wound that he hasn't ever been able to heal and express as well.
Right.
So he zips that into anger. Now, what do we do in response to people acting angry? We do the fight or flight routine. We either fight back, which actually leaves him feeling even more frightened,
mm-hmm.
or we get run. We just want to get out of there.
Yep.
So we fly, right? That leaves him feeling more sad and abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, the way we in our society respond to somebody who's acting angry is going to leave them feeling even more frightened and sad. All we can do is act even more angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more angry he behaves, the more frightened and sad we're going to respond. We're going to do the fight or flight routine, right, which is going to leave him feeling more frightened and sad.
Mm-hmm.
This just keeps escalating in this spiraling out in males to increased levels of anger being expressed, aggression, and violence, eventually ending in violence.
Yep, I can see that.
And then we say, well, there was no apparent reason because it's hit something, it's hit a wound, and it's going to be explosive. He's going to be increasing his aggression and violence. Women are going to be increasing their passive response and their despair and depression.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay, so you've got the two of them. So he gets told at work that he's out of here. If he doesn't raise his game, he's out. So he's in fact frightened or sad. What does he do? Immediately zap it straight into anger. He's driving home really angry. There's your road rage.
Right. Yep.
He's getting really, really angry about apparently nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's coming, and as he comes in home, he says, what's this rubbish on the floor? Why don't you keep the house clean? Mm-hmm. Which in fact triggers her anger.
Right.
Now she's feeling angry. This is not fair. I've been working hard all day, etc., etc., etc. And what does she do? She doesn't express anger. She immediately zaps that into fear or sadness and looks very upset. That then pokes some salt in that wound again. It's triggered off that unconscious, really,
Mm-hmm.
memory of fear and sadness. That makes him feel more frightened and sad. All he can do is act more angry. The more angry he acts, the more angry she feels.
Mm-hmm.
The more fear and sadness she acts, the more fear and sadness he feels,
Mm-hmm.
the more angry he acts. So this is this infinity curve going on here, locked in, hooked in, escalating over many years because of the increased vat full of unexpressed emotion that's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting bigger and bigger and more dangerous over the years. And you've got then this continuously increasing passive and depressed behaviour on the part of women. Scratch a depressed woman and you will find a vat full of anger.
Wow.
Over here, scratch a violent man, an aggressive man, acting angry and scary, and you will find a vat full of fear and sadness that is unexpressed.
Right.
Now, there's one other part to this. There's a couple of other parts here. What the healthy outcome to this will be to give men and women permission to express their emotions according to what the real emotion is, in order to get the needs met.
Right.
Okay? So what we need is men and women to be given permission to express happy, sad, frightened and angry when they're happy, sad, frightened and angry,
Right.
not substitute or contaminate
Mm-hmm.
their emotions and not repress them, and to teach both men and women assertive rather than passive or aggressive behaviour. That's necessary. Now that's the standard stereotype interaction, and you see it in all forms of relationships. But this can be swung around, and this is another important, because I said this is the general principle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can be swung around, so that a male, for instance, a boy who is growing up with this message, don't you get angry with me, young man, or I'll knock your block off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That boy is getting this message that it is not okay and safe for him to express anger. So he learns to shut down.
Right.
And he will be shut down. He may be feeling very anxious and very depressed as well. Same as the female stereotype does.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, girls can be brought up with this scenario where it is not safe or okay for her to be frightened or sad. She might be getting this, oh, you silky little girl, you know, or worse. And so it may be dangerous for her to express fear or sadness. She learns to act tough. And we're seeing that in our society as well.
We sure do.
That's and that, John, is at the basis of many unhappy relationships, where we really do need to start helping people. It's from very young. We need to be helping parents to understand what's happening between parents and the fact that the children are learning to copy them from the time they're born.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think this can also be made worse in different cultures. For instance, I'm thinking about some of our close neighbours, like the Kiwis, for instance, with the Maori culture and the haka and being tough, and it must affect different cultures quite differently, I would think.
Yeah, there are very cultural differences. What I've just described there is predominantly Anglo-Saxon, but it can be quite significantly exaggerated in many cultures around the world, where there is extreme pressure on men to behave as the absolutely tough, unemotional, and I don't believe that the men around the world are well served by this.
No.
They are very much in dire straits with this problem.
Must be difficult for men. I've noticed that someone was talking to me a week or two ago, and they mentioned about a young young boy in his teens who was very angry, and I said, I was aware of this, and I said, well, perhaps you might find that he's not angry, he's actually sad. And I asked them what would make him sad, for instance, and they said, oh well, he gets teased a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything, and boys have experienced that, it is so painful for them, and yet they're not allowed to show that.
Absolutely. And the outcome of that was, I was talking to his grandparents, and they, next time they had that situation occur, they actually hugged him. And it made a massive difference.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's just under the surface, John. It is really, because, as I said, you get that wound, that you don't just touch the wound of the very early fear and sadness and so on, but the things that they've never been expressed. Yeah. And they are sitting there like horrendous wounds that have gone toxic.
Excellent.
Just under the surface.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, in a practical sense, what are the keys that people can do with this information when they see it? Because
well, be self-aware. How do you respond to males and females differently? Whether you're male or female, how do you respond differently? And then to ask what we can do if we're that's a complex question that I wouldn't like to give simplistic answers to at this point. But one very simple clue is to ask a question, and not hounding anyone, but what's happening? How do you feel? But even that can be dangerous if there is an extremity of any of those. So it really is it is a complex question, and there really are no immediate simple answers. But understanding it will actually give you much greater capacity to stop, pause, think, hang on, this probably isn't about me. It's probably hitting something that I have triggered that's going on for that person. Even if you can have that awareness, and that's a help at the beginning.
Yeah. Awareness of the emotion, it's an unexpected event, what's going on. And I think that's where I see counsellors like yourself invaluable in the community, that you've had lots of experience with these sort of situations, and you can advise individual people about individual problems with about another individual, so to speak. It's really a unique experience for each person. It just depends on what their upbringing was like.
Yes, and it is very almost as unique as a fingerprint. And finding what the real cause is. Have there been any really horrific events in that person's life before the age of 2, where there may be no conscious awareness of it at all.
Excellent. And thanks, Dawn. Is there anything else you would like to add to that at the moment?
No, I think that's been best taken at this stage. But there's plenty more where that comes from.
All right. And so we'll put contact details in the description below, and if people want to really follow the channel, it'd be good for them to click that subscribe button and be advised of future episodes, which I certainly look forward to discussing these real issues, life-saving issues that can be resolved with the help of a professional like yourself. So thank you, Dawn, very much.
Thanks, John.